Why eat greens? Alkalizing and oxygenating. So we spoke about the alkalizing nature of greens earlier on, but they're also oxygenating in their alkalizing effects. In 1931, Dr. Otto Warburg won a Nobel Peace Prize. What for? For discovering what caused cancer. Huh? I thought we were still trying to figure out what caused cancer. I mean, what are all these societies doing, spending millions and millions and millions of rands of dollars on trying to figure out what causes cancer? They figured it out in 1931. And he said that cancer is caused by weakened cell respiration due to a lack of oxygen at a cellular level. So basically, cancer is something that comes about when a cell doesn't have enough oxygen. Now, one of the key things that blocks these cells' ability to absorb and hold oxygen is an acidic environment. If your body is in an acidic state, your cells can't carry oxygen. So the minute you get more alkaline, the more your cells can then carry oxygen. Key. Yes?
You think of Dr. Vogel's alkalizing powder and cell food.
Yes, so you do get powders which can quickly alkalize your body, and those are really great as short-term boosts, but I still see them as band-aids. They don't really address the fundamental issue, which is that you need to get alkaline food in to re-establish your reserves of alkalinity, because those powders work really well as soon as you digest them, but then they wash out. The food is where your body is going to pull those minerals into your bones again. So I really like the alkaline powders for an initial boost of alkalinity, but I feel long-term we want to move away from band-aids and actually get into a deeper healing through food. Okay.
What foods are good then for increasing calcium?
Greens.
All of them.
Greens are some of the richest sources of calcium out there. Yeah, I mean, look, there are other foods. Things like baobab fruit powder is incredibly rich in calcium. Things like sesame seeds are incredibly rich in calcium. So there are other foods, but I would just go with greens. So cancer thrives in an aerobic and acidic condition. So lack of oxygen and highly acidic. If you know someone who has cancer, please tell them this. They may not hear it from their doctor.
There was some from before, aloe. Where does that fit in? Like
Aloe.
Aloe and
Ferox.
No, ferox is, I would definitely say it's alkalizing as a green leaf. I mean, its healing ability comes in its digestive aid. It really soothes the digestive tract. But it also has very long-chain sugars, known as polysaccharides, which are incredible at healing the body. So, yeah, I put aloe in a green leaf camp, but it has other magic to it too.
And you can eat the leaf or not?
Not the outside. The outside is very bitter. You'd actually eat the gel inside. Again, in our DVD and our book, I show how to fillet it and how to use it. I definitely recommend aloe. I mean, it's an amazing wild food. So this is a little picture to show you that chlorophyll is almost exactly the same as hemoglobin, human blood. The only difference, the main difference is that the central molecule in plants is magnesium, the central molecule in humans is iron. So if you want to improve your blood quality, you definitely want to be getting some plant blood into you. Green leaves. There are people that I've heard who say that green juice is almost a perfect blood transfusion to get that chlorophyll-rich, alkaline-rich, mineral-rich food into your body.
So if you're iron deficient, that would be a great way to supplement it?
Well, greens can have high iron levels, especially things like parsley. Also things like spirulina. A lot of the algae are rich in iron. What else is rich in iron? I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. You can Google it.
Spinach.
Spinach has some iron in it. I mean, it's
Aubergine.
not... Aubergine?
Aubergine is rich in iron.
Okay. Raisins. There's plenty of different foods.
Aren't raisins bad? Sugars? Too many sugars?
Well, again, depends where you're at in your health journey. If you need to cut out all sugars, then yes, raisins will be too sweet. If you're generally healthy, fit, and well, add raisins in. They're amazing. I prefer raisins with seeds in them. Very hard to find at the moment because most people don't like the seeds. But for me, the seeds are one of the key reasons why grapes and raisins are so amazing. Now they're just breeding them all without seeds. And it's happening a lot.
When you say find it hard, is the organic one.
And then to get organic ones too. Yeah. Because raisins will have concentrated pesticides. So you've got to make sure it's organic. I'm going to touch on organic shortly. So the other reason why you want to eat greens is for vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, fiber, and protein. Protein, greens. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Let's just look at vitamins first and some of the minerals. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a comparison that I got out of a book by Victoria Butenko, Green for Life. One of my favorite books. It's a really good read. And it's a small book. You'll get through it fairly quickly. And she just compared the root of a plant to the leaf of a plant and compared the nutrient differences. And you see that if you run through the list, the leaves are generally much, much higher in nutrient density, in vitamins, in minerals, in fiber. Some of them radically higher. I'm not really going to go through the list now, but we were looking at calcium. Turnips have 190 milligrams in the leaf, but only 30 in the root. So you definitely want to get the greens. Even in beetroots, 16 milligrams of calcium and 117 in the beetroot green. Iron too, 0.8 to 2.5 and 0.3 to 1.1. So you're looking at like double, triple, quadruple more minerals in the leaf than you find in the root. Yeah, so definitely, don't just eat the root, go for the leaf too.
Peter, the vitamin A in the beetroot is quite incredible.
Vitamin A, beetroot,
Yeah,
33 IUs in the root, 6,326 in the leaf. Yeah.
Beetroot for vitamin A.
Beetroots, leaves, yeah. Nice one, thanks for that. Vitamin K, vitamin K is a key one. 400 versus 0.2.
And we throw the leaves of the
And we throw them away. We get the beetroots, we throw the leaves away, and we eat the roots. It's like throwing away the good stuff. Amazing. So definitely get juicing those guys, having them in salad. Absolutely, yeah. Then if we look at protein, because often people think, well, greens, are they rich in protein? If you look at the biggest animals on the land, what do they eat? Leaves and grass. They clearly don't seem to have a protein deficiency. The smallest animals, generally, land animals, eat other animals, the carnivores. It's very energetically draining consuming flesh. That's just the case. If you eat leaves and plants, it's less energetically draining. You can actually build tissue better. Obviously you need a range of greens to make sure you get all your amino acids. You need to eat enough greens, but it's good quality protein. And often people say to me, well, where do you get your protein from if you're a raw foodist and on the vegan side of things? I say greens, and they expect I was going to say like tofu. No, greens. You've got to get your greens in. So this is just comparing lamb's quarters and kale. And those are weeds. Well, this is the lamb's quarters, and it just shows you the RDA and the amount of the amino acids in the actual green. And almost all of them, if you eat 1 pound, what's that, half a kilo, will provide you more than your RDA of amino acids. That's just 1 pound. And then kale at the bottom here too. And many of them are much higher. So you can absolutely get your protein from greens. That certainly doesn't have to be your only source, your primary source. But if people are worried about not getting enough protein, it's really not something to be concerned about. Cleansing. So greens are incredibly cleansing because they have fiber which is sponge-like. So when you consume the green leaves, the fiber bulks out, feeds your probiotics, but also pulls toxins out. So it's one of the key detoxification foods to consume, green leaves. And this is actually having salads and green smoothies, so you get that fiber into your diet. Generally, people on the Western diet eat far too little fiber. They aren't regular, they're not getting the proper flush, and that causes all sorts of complications in the colon. We've got to get enough of that fiber in. Today people eat cardboard as fiber, and they pay money. They buy cardboard in cardboard boxes. Then they add, GM, glow-in-the-dark, pasteurized, homogenized milk to that. What kind of food is that? Scary. Very scary. It's like the stuff people have been sold as food. It's unbelievable. And you reach a point where you get a bit of perspective on food, and you look at what people actually eat, and you're like, that's radical. Seriously? How do we ever get sold that was a good idea? It's amazing. It requires a bit of perspective, and unfortunately, if you're still consuming that food, the food robs you of the perspective by its very presence in your body. It's one of those weird things. As soon as it's out of your body, then suddenly you rise up a little bit, and you're like, whoa, look at that. I ate that stuff, how insane. You didn't think so while you ate it though. It's an amazing thing of shifting awareness. The whole world can change, just like that. Okay, why else do we need to eat greens? Perfect for human nutritional needs. So that's Victoria's book. And she reckons that chimpanzees, wild chimpanzees, are some of the closest animals in nature to us. They share 99.4% DNA sequences. They have the same blood grouping. Their differences are actually far more behavioral than anatomic. Some people are actually calling for them to be in the Homo category because they found they actually have their own culture, and that used to be determinant whether an animal was Homo or not, a humanoid. But they do have a culture, they have a language, they can speak to each other in a different way obviously to us. So what she found is that the wild chimpanzee diet is a big chunk of greens and blossoms, with about half fruit, and then some bark and some seeds, and then some insects, and they also do occasionally kill small animals. But it's a very small part of their diet. And then if you look at the standard American diet or the standard Western diet, you'll see that it's almost all whites. Rice, potatoes, bread, pasta, calorie-rich, nutrient-deficient food. Recipe for disaster for your colon, this stuff. Vegetables, look, they're in there, but wow. I mean, greens, they actually have greens in there too, but I think she just put it in there just because it's got me. Animal protein, another big part of it, and then oils. What's interesting, if you then compare the chimpanzee diet to a typical raw foodist will have a similar amount of fruit. The greens will still be pretty low though, with a whole bunch of oils, a lot of fat in the diet. And this is why, from a Rawlicious perspective, we're always talking about adding in more greens, so that this is increased. Adding in more vegetables, adding in more less sweet fruits, not having as many fats, which can slow you down. That's why the greens are so key. So how do we eat greens? First, you've got to make sure you chew them well. You need to break the fiber apart. If you don't chew them well, you won't digest them. And I've had many people say to me, I started eating a lot of greens and I had bloating and my digestion felt off and gas, and I was like, were you chewing properly? And they said, I tried, but geez, my jaw was so tired. Yeah, totally, because you're not used to it, and it often is the case. When you're used to eating cooked, sloppy food, your jaw muscles actually go to sleep. So when you suddenly start eating fiber-rich food like greens, and you start chewing, you're like, this is work. Okay, but you actually have to, because digestion only happens in the mouth. Unless you're chewing it completely fine, there's no teeth further down. So you've got to chew it.
How would you classify asparagus?
Asparagus, I think it's more of a vegetable.
Yeah, but acid or alkaline?
I have no idea where it sits. You can check it out online. I'm sure someone's measured it.
I'd say it's alkaline.
You reckon it's alkaline?
Yeah, it's a shoot.
Yeah, it is a shoot, so it's more like a stem. It's very likely alkaline.
Depending what you do to it, put it in a tin.
It helps with as far as digestion is concerned.
Definitely add that. Yeah, asparagus is amazing. Raw asparagus, sure, amazing. So one of the issues that I found people have with greens is if they're over the age of around 40, or they've really been damaging the system from a very young age, their body may be quite deficient in stomach hydrochloric acid. And hydrochloric acid in your stomach is a key thing for breaking down the greens for digestion. If you don't have enough, that can lead to all of those digestive issues. Now, eating the greens by themselves will actually stimulate your body into producing more hydrochloric acid. So they will help. But you've got to start slow so that you don't get overwhelmed. This is where I recommend juicing and blending, because it helps you because it's pre-digested. People who are over the age of 40 who notice that their digestion maybe isn't as good as it was, or they notice they're getting grey hairs, they can include a supplement like betaine HCl. Betaine HCl is a form of hydrochloric acid you can consume with your food. It'll just help your body break down that until your body starts producing enough of its own. There are many people out there who have said that they started having green smoothies and green juices and suddenly their grey hairs grew out. And the reason that likely was going on is that the stomach was coming back online with hydrochloric acid. Interestingly enough, when the body is deficient in hydrochloric acid, things that can damage our systems, which would actually naturally be in wild greens, things like oxalates, are deactivated. So if you're healthy, if you eat wild greens that are full of oxalic acid, that oxalic acid will be neutralized in your digestive system, in your gut. If you don't have a healthy gut and you eat a lot of wild greens, that oxalic acid can bind to calcium in your bloodstream and actually rob you of calcium. So you see how important it is to make sure your digestive system is working properly. That's why I also recommend initially not to go completely on the wild side with the greens. Stick to some of the more hybrid varieties, like the spinaches and maybe just lettuce. Until you get used to the greens. Sunflower greens are amazing for that. What else have we got? Vary the types. So eat different types of greens. Don't just eat one every day. Mix it up. If we were naturally out there foraging for wild greens, it's unlikely we'd eat the same thing every single day. And I think eating the same thing every single day, is unnatural in a way anyway. So mixing up your diet means that you get access to different nutrients from different sources. You're not limiting your window of nutrients. And there's so many different types to try. Add in green powders. That's a great tip to get in more greens into your body, especially initially. If you don't have a juicer, you don't like the taste of greens yet, you don't want to chew or can't chew, start adding in the powders. There's so many different good brands out there selling green powders with wheatgrass, barley grass, sea vegetables, different greens. Just add them into juice, even if initially that's some apple juice. Just getting those greens in. And then lastly, how do you eat them? You eat them by the bucket load. You want to get in as much as you can. Again, start slow, build up over time. But for me, there's no limit of how much is enough. Eat as much as you can. We live in a society where eating greens is something that doesn't happen a lot. So for someone to eat green juice for breakfast, green smoothie in the afternoon, green salad at lunch, a sprout salad in the evening, it might look to Western like that's an insane diet. How full of greenery is that? But actually that's what's going to get your body alkaline. So really eat as much as you can. This is not a hard thing to do, because if you start putting in salads in your diet, there are so many different salads you can make. This is why we wrote Rawlicious, our recipe book and our DVD, to educate people on how to make salads. Because most people think a salad is lettuce, tomatoes, cucumber. The stuff you get at restaurants. To me, that is not a salad. That literally is like garnish. I can't. I don't even waste my time anymore. Because it's actually just empty. When we actually first got into health food, Barron said, I really think you should eat more salad. Salad's good, it's got greens in it. I was like, what's the point? It's fiber and water. I had a point. She had a point. We didn't quite see each other's point. This often happens with people. I only saw the point when I started looking into greens and researching and realized that I was actually right, because the stuff that we were buying was actually nutrient deficient, not organic, hybridized types of greens. And when we started getting into more wild greens, more organic greens, more varieties of greens, more dark greens, then I realized, okay, this is food. This is nutrient-dense food. That's just 3 pictures of 3 salads we make. And one of the key things to salad is making it look nice. So much of the experience of eating is in the presentation. So take the time, it's like an extra few minutes just to, put the tomatoes in a circle. Put the sauce on top. Sprinkle it with some color, whatever that is. Goji berries, amazing for color. Get creative. Basically, a salad is any mix of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, seaweeds, herbs, and sprouts. You can take any varieties of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, seaweeds, herbs, and sprouts, mix it up, put it in a bowl, and you got a salad. That's a salad. Okay. My favorite way of getting greens in, especially initially, is to juice them or to blend them. We can use a juicing machine or a blending machine as an external mouth. They literally chew it for you first, because remember the jaw might not be that strong, the gut might not be up for it. They pre-digest it for us, so that we can get larger volumes in more often. And that is the key. Often I get asked, which one's better, green juice or green smoothie? I'm like, they're both amazing. Have them both. I like green juice for people who already have symptoms, who are ill, because it's more concentrated greenery, because the fiber, or most of the fiber, has been taken out. So you can get more in because it's not as filling. The smoothie has all the fiber in, so it's quite filling. So you won't be able to consume as many greens or as much green. So that's why I like the juice. You can get more green in. Okay, so as a healing therapy, sure.
And the quantity of it?
I recommend people start by having a litre a day, minimum. That's a half a litre of green juice diluted with a half a litre of water. It takes me 10 minutes to juice a half a litre. Yeah, you dilute it with water, especially initially, because it can be quite strong for people. It can be too cleansing, can cause all sorts of detox reactions like flushes. So dilute.
You've been having it for a while and you can have it without water?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll often drink it undiluted, but you've got to be used to it. Smoothies, for some people, are easier to do than green juice, because green juice obviously takes a bit longer, you need more greens, whereas smoothie, you need fewer greens, and it's much quicker, because you just chuck it in a blender and turn it on. You know, you've got to do something. Juice, smoothie. You know, just start getting some kind of green into you, whatever's easier. You may already have a blender at home, so start with green smoothies. You may already have a juicer, then get into green juice. There are different types of equipment, I'll just mention this. If you want to juice greens, you have to get a masticating juicer, which is different to a centrifugal juicer. Centrifugal is the one that spins. It goes, whoo, makes a big noise, spins around, and you put fruit in and it goes, meow, like a saw. And then stuff sprays out the one side, and the pulp is very wet. Okay, that kind of juicer is great for apples, it's great for carrots and beetroot and cucumber, but it's terrible for green leaves. You're going to waste most of the juice out of green leaves. So that's why I recommend a masticating juicer. It has an auger inside that slowly spins, presses the greens up against a screen with a sieve, and then it presses it out. So you get a near very high level of juice extraction out of the greens. That kind of juicer can still juice apples and beetroots and carrots. Obviously it just does it a little bit more slowly. But your quality of juice is far superior with this kind of juicer than with the centrifugal. Saying that, I started with the centrifugal. That's what I had. I used what I had. Use what you've got. But if you really want to get into getting the greens in, this kind of juicer is really going to do it.
Why does the juice from the Oscar have a browner look than the centrifugal juice?
It's getting so much more of the nutrients out of the juice.
Because I mean, it looks like it's more oxidized.
No, it's less oxidized. It's one of the reasons it'll last longer. The flavour will remain much longer.
It's just because it's more nutrient dense.
More nutrient dense, you'll get a deeper colour in the juice, for sure.
It's brown.
You see, centrifugals get mostly water out of the fibre. So you're getting mostly water, very little of the actual minerals. Okay, so that's why I like this one. You're getting more nutrients, it's going to give you a deeper colour, deeper taste too. For sure. Then you've got different types of blenders. You know, I started with a little hand blender, one of those stick blenders with a little cup. Just tear your greens in there, put a banana in, fill it with water. That totally works. I mean, they're really cheap. So you can start with that. I've saved up over many years to buy myself a Vitamix, which is just the Rolls-Royce of blenders. You know, I can put all my greens in, all my fruit, water, 2 litres, blend, 30 seconds, completely smooth. But the blend is not cheap. But it is a long-term investment. You know, a blender like this will last you at least a decade. I know people that have had their Vitamixes for over 20 years, and they're still going strong, daily use. So you buy a cheap blender, maybe last a year or two, you've got to replace it. Especially if you get into this and do it regularly. You get a proper blender, it's going to last you for decades. Same with the juicer. You know, this juicer, the Oscar, has a 10-year guarantee on the motor. So it's going to last you at least 10 years. So it's much cheaper to buy these over the long term. But obviously in our society today, we're quite about like, what's it going to cost me now? I might sell something. Sell the car, get a cheaper car, buy the blender. Totally. And your health, your body is more than worth it. And people often ask me like, it's expensive to eat healthy. I'm like, it's expensive to be sick. Like, you choose.
Rather pay the farmer, pay the doctor.
Exactly. So I definitely say put your money into your body. You know, not necessarily into shoes, even houses or cars.
Don't need shoes anymore.
Don't need shoes, we're barefoot. That's right. Thank you. Okay, now I want to get to a point which is very, very important, and one that often people forget about for some crazy reason. And that is that it is absolutely essential that the greens you use are organic. For a number of reasons. Firstly, they're not going to have the poisons on them. That's a pretty good reason by itself. I would buy organic just for that reason, so I don't poison myself and my family. I mean, that's crazy. But for me, a more important reason than even the poisons is the nutrient density that organic greens, organic food in general, has over conventional produce. This is again a diagram taken out of that same book, and it compares 5 different foods, and it looks at the different nutrients, and it just shows you how much higher organic produce is to conventional produce. So let's look at something like spinach, because that's a green that we often will be juicing. Total mineral ash, that's basically the total amount of minerals present in the food. We're looking at 12 versus 28 in organic. So that's more than double total minerals in organic. So the organic, even if it's twice the price, you're still scoring. Okay, that's a key thing to remember, because often people look at the price and they're like, wow, this is expensive. Why is the organic stuff so expensive? But they don't see that even though it's the same weight, the nutrients are very light little things. They don't weigh much. And that is why you want to be eating the food, for the nutrients. I mean, some other things. If you look at something like iron, you're asking about iron. Iron, 49 trace parts per million in commercial versus 1,584 in organic. I mean, there's another great one. Oh yeah, manganese, 1 versus 117. So you have to eat 117 organic spinach leaves to get the same amount of manganese as one non-organic one. So to me it's like a no-brainer. It's like non-organic food for me actually almost isn't food. It's actually an illusion because it leaves you wanting more because your body hasn't gotten what it needs, which are minerals. So even if the food is more expensive, it's going to make you feel full. You're not going to want to eat more. You'll actually maybe for the first time not be hungry.
How does
Yeah, tomatoes, some amazing. Yeah.
How does it being organic get more minerals into the...
So commercially grown farms use 3 minerals in the soil. They've been growing food in that soil for decades, so the minerals have been pulled out. All the trace minerals are out, washed out, because there's no compost, so when heavy rains come it just floods off the minerals, the topsoil. But also, they don't add anything back in, they only add 3 minerals to make the plants look healthy.
So if somebody is certifying something organic, then they look at what they're putting into the soil.
Absolutely, yeah. They look at all the inputs, for sure. They're using compost, which is a rich source of minerals from various plant matters. Absolutely. So it's not just about, are there chemicals?
Free of pesticides and
Yeah, exactly. And often people think that's all it is. But that's like, for me, I mean, it's certainly important, but it's a smaller part.
Apparently we're very zinc deficient.
Zinc, yeah. I mean, zinc is one of the minerals that's just been stripped out of the soil.
How do we know it's actually certified? Some people say it's not really organic. Why do it's like a
So there are certifying bodies, which you have to spend money to become certified. We're in the process. We'll have our certification maybe even by the end of the month. All our stuff is actually certified organic, but because we repack, we can't use the certification seal. So now we're just being certified as a packer.
I think it's between 3 to 5 years before someone...
For a farmer, yes. It's a number of years for a farmer to become certified. It's not just, oh yeah, your place looks okay, so we'll certify you. It's years of monitoring, of looking at, of sampling. So it's quite an in-depth process the farmer has to go through. And often farmers don't have the money to do it. So there are farmers out there, small-scale farmers, doing really good work, but they aren't certified, well, their products aren't certified. And then you've just got to chat to them, you've got to say to them, what poisons do you use? And they hopefully will be frank about that and honest.
We've got to prove that there's no chemicals.
To be certified, they have to prove there's no chemicals. Yeah.
So do you think our organic veggies and fruit are trustworthy?
If they're certified organic, absolutely. They're certified, and it'll say certified, it'll have a little number, it'll say the certification body, it'll say the certification standard, because South Africa doesn't have its own organic standard. So we use either American standard or the European standard. I use the European standard, tends to be a little bit more stringent.
Is Soil for Life organic?
So they grow everything organically, but they're not certified organic.
Okay, but they don't use pesticides.
No,
and
they don't
stuff.
use, no, absolutely.
So that's also fine to
That's
buy from them.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's where
That's
you got to
what
get to
don't
know
want.
the farmer.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get to chat to the people and say, how are you growing it?
What about the cost of hope? I mean, that's like, apparently a bunch of people just growing in their garden.
Sure. I really don't know. I haven't looked into that. No. Ask them.
It's all grown organically.
All grown organically, Noel knows.
And they are quite strict on it.
So they're all organic, they're quite strict on it. And that's the thing, if you don't know if someone's actually growing organically, you can pick up the phone and just ask them.
But I mean, like, how do you know what they're putting into the soil?
Ask them. Yeah, find out. I don't know personally. For me, the organic is amazing, and if I buy food, it's going to be organic. But something that's even more powerful than that is obviously growing it at home yourself. This is the veggie garden we get our greens from, and those are some of the sprouts that we grow. So you can get access to huge amounts of greens on a very small piece of land by just putting them in the soil. It's amazing, they just keep growing. Many of the greens, like the kales, spinaches, they grow all year round. And then they'll seed themselves, and the seeds will grow into more plants, and then they'll seed themselves. It's amazing. It's like magic. But people obviously go to the shop and they buy it. But the shop doesn't reseed itself. It's an illusion. So get into growing your own greens. These are the sprout racks that we use. It's one of the easiest ways I've found to grow sprouts. I just like this photo. Parents' horse loves our green smoothies. And with that, I'm going to end and we can take questions.